Are we live streaming now? Yes, I think.
Yes, Prabhu, here we are. Yeah.
Okay. Hare Krishna. This morning we're going to read from Srimad Bhagavatam, 4th canto, chapter 24, and text number 29. Before doing, we will offer our respectful obeisances unto the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Srimad Bhagavatam 4:24-29. Swadharma Nishta Sata Janma Vipuman Virinchatam Eti Tatha Param Himam Avyakritam Bhagavato Ta Vaishnavam Padam Yataham Vibudha Kalatyaye. Translation and purport by His Divine Grace, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada. Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. Translation. A person who executes his occupational duty properly for 100 births becomes qualified to occupy the post of Brahma. And if he becomes more qualified, he can approach Lord Shiva. A person who is directly surrendered to Lord Krishna or Vishnu in unalloyed devotional service is immediately promoted to the spiritual planets. Lord Shiva and other demigods attain these planets after the destruction of this material world. Srila Prabhupada's purport. This verse gives an idea of the highest perfection of the evolutionary process. As described by the Vaishnava poet Jayadev Goswami, Pralaya Payodhi Jale Dritavan Asti Vedam. Let us begin tracing the evolutionary process from the point of devastation, pralaya, when the whole universe is filled with water. At that time, there are many fishes and other aquatics, and from these aquatics evolve creepers, trees, etc. From these insects and reptiles evolve, and from them birds, beasts, and then human beings, and finally civilized human beings. Now, the civilized human being is at a junction where he can make further evolutionary progress in spiritual life. So I think it's worth noting at this point, when I was reading this earlier, I was thinking about this. It sounded very, Srila Prabhupada speaking very much about evolution. And we get immediately the Darwinian concept of evolution coming in, that somewhere along the line the fish became aquatics of bigger size, and then they crept out of the ocean and developed into creepers and trees and stuff, and gradually we came to the point of human life. And I can't remember the names, all the names that Darwin's people, scientists have presented. What do they call it? Different kinds of man. And eventually, as we progress more and more in this wonderful elevated material civilization, so-called, then we will come to the platform of evolved, civilized human beings. And then we'll gradually understand everything if we just keep doing what we've been doing more and more. So this kind of idea of what is it called? Evolution. Sorry, evolution is not what Srila Prabhupada is speaking about. He's speaking about the civilized human being is at a junction where he can make further evolutionary progress in spiritual life. So Srila Prabhupada very kindly pointed out that the evolution is of the living entity, his ability to evolve his consciousness from the lower stages of existence and lower types of bodies, and be able to come to the higher developed human form of life. So this is the very important junction, a junction where he can make further progress in spiritual life. Here it is stated, Swadharma Nishtaha, that when a living entity comes to a civilized form of life, there must be Swadharma, social divisions, according to one's work and qualifications. This is indicated in the Bhagavad Gita 4:13, Chaturvarnya Maya Sristam Gunai Karma Vibhagasa. Quote, according to the three modes of material nature and the work ascribed to them, the four divisions of human society were created by me, Krishna says. In civilized human society, there must be the divisions of Brahmana, Kshatriya, Vaishya, and Shudra. And everyone must properly execute his occupational duty in accordance with his division. Prabhupada's must. It's not optional. One must properly in qualified human society, elevated civilization. One must properly, that's an obligation. Here it is described, Swadharma Nishtaha, that it does not matter whether one is a Brahmana, Kshatriya, Vaishya, or Shudra. If one sticks to his position and properly executes his particular duty, he is considered a civilized human being. Otherwise, he is no better than an animal. It is also mentioned herein that whoever executes his occupational duty swadharma for 100 births, for instance, if a Brahmana continues to act as a Brahmana, he becomes eligible for promotion to Brahmaloka, the planet where Lord Brahma lives. There is also a planet called Shivaloka or Sadashivaloka, which is situated in a marginal position between the spiritual and material worlds. If after being situated in Brahmaloka, one becomes more qualified, he is promoted to Sadashiva Loka. Similarly, when one becomes even more qualified, he can attain the Vaikuntha Lokas. The Vaikuntha Lokas are targets for everyone, even the demigods, and they can be attained by a devotee who has no desire for material benefit. As indicated in the Bhagavad Gita 8:16, one does not escape material miseries even if he is elevated to Brahmaloka. Abrahma Bhuvanaloka Purna Avartino Arjuna. Similarly, one is not very safe even if he is promoted to Shivaloka, because the planet of Shivaloka is marginal. However, if one attains Vaikuntha Loka, he attains the highest perfection of life and the end of the evolutionary process. Mamopetya tukuntaya purna janma navidyate. In other words, it is confirmed herein that a person in human society who has developed consciousness must take to Krishna consciousness in order to be promoted to Vaikuntha Loka or Krishna Loka immediately after leaving the body. Chakvadeham Purna Janma Naiti Mamiti Suarjuna, Bhagavad Gita 4:9. A devotee who is fully in Krishna consciousness, who is not attracted by any other loka or planet, including Brahma Loka and Shiva Loka, is immediately transferred to Krishna Loka, Mameti. That is the highest perfection of life and is the perfection of the evolutionary process. Om Agana Timarandasya Gananjana Salakaya Chakshurun Militam Yena Tasmai Sri Grave Namaha. I was born in the darkest of ignorance, and my spiritual masters forcing me to open my eyes with the torchlight of transcendental knowledge. I offer my humble obeisances unto his lotus feet. The emphatic purports of His Divine Grace Srila Prabhupada continually reminding us of the purpose of life in a human form. And that purpose of life is to please the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Nate vidu svartagatim hi Vishnu durasaya ye bahirartamanina andaya tande rupani yamanasti peshi tantriyam urudam nibadha. Nate vidu svartagatim hi Vishnu. The purpose of life is to render service to the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Why? Because that will bring us Yenatma supracidity, the pleasure, the happiness, the all desired position that every living being seeks. That will bring us to that point. The purpose of the whole system of the Varnashram that Srila Prabhupada mentions in the purport. In civilized human society, there must be divisions of Brahmin, Kshatriya, Vaishya, and Shudra. Why? So that we can subjugate different people, that the Brahmanas will be on the top and everyone else will be last, and the Kshatriyas will be next, and they'll run around exploiting everyone. And the Vaishyas will exploit everyone, and guess who's left? The Shudras, and they'll be exploited by the Brahmanas, Kshatriyas. No, this is the mundane consciousness in which we see manifest in the world that we exist in today. Because there is no God consciousness, Krishna consciousness, no higher consciousness, then we find lower consciousness where we are simply scrambling for some personal advantage at the cost of everybody else. And everyone is suffering. The person in that consciousness, thinking himself to be on the top of the pile, he is suffering because he's not finding the happiness that he desires. And everyone else that he's exploiting is feeling that they're being exploited, and therefore it's not a very good arrangement. So Krishna says, Chatur Varnyamaya Srishtam Guna Karmane Vibhagasa. Everyone is born due to their past actions into a certain situation. As you sow, so shall ye reap. The Bible explains that point, the karmic actions and reactions. So everyone is born with a certain quality and a propensity for certain activities. Therefore, Krishna says, I have created this system. I'm not part of the system, but it is perfectly created to facilitate the desires of every living entity according to their past actions and desires. And the purpose of this is that gradually one will be able to come to the platform. Atapum virdvijasreshtas, varnashrama vibhagasa. The Krishna or the Bhagavatam says in the second canto that Atapu, or best amongst the twice born. It is therefore concluded that the highest perfection one can attain by discharging one's duties according to the caste divisions and orders of life is samsiddhi hari toshanam. So it will please Hari, the Supreme Personality of Godhead. And guess what? Immediately the mind rushes in, oh, but that pleases God. But what about me? I want pleasure. Samsiddhi Hari, it pleases God. And the amazing thing is that because you are actually not independent, but you are a part and parcel of that Supreme Godhead, you're not different from the Supreme. Then you will find your happiness in that connection. Just now we're disconnected and we've plugged into the material energy trying to get a connection for that thing which we're always anxious. What is that? Happiness, pleasure, ananda, Sat-Chit Ananda. We want to all the time. Last night we were out just having a walk, my wife and I was just seeing as we walked around this local area, it's the new subdivision, and now it's a few years established and the trees are there and it looks very pretty. And it's called middle class pretty much. And people are having their houses very clean, the gardens nice and neat and tidy, and so many cars, they haven't got a chance to move. But there's no sense of much of, don't grow any vegetables there. You don't need them. Just imagine yourself to be wonderfully situated permanently, and you have your cars all clean. So they're all cleaned and polished and new. And we try and keep everything like that because that is the desire. The desire is to live eternally blissfully. And we're thinking foolishly that we've plugged into this material nature and that we'll find the bliss. If we just keep working and keep searching for it on and on and on until Janma Mritya Jara Vyadi, you don't address the real problems of life. What is that? Birth, death, disease, and old age. These are the real problems. And you can't escape those problems. So the system that is given by the Supreme Lord is that we all have so many varied desires. So I've made an arrangement for you so that you can be properly situated and you can be guided how to become satisfied in the performance of your duty according to your psychophysical nature. And in this way, we will have a progressive human civilization. End of story, close the book. It's a done deal. No, because it's always the living entity has his independence to choose how to act. Krishna doesn't interfere. Just like in the end of the Bhagavad Gita, Krishna says, I've described everything to you, Arjuna. I've explained the whole thing from top to bottom. And now Krishna says, do as you want to do. You choose. He doesn't force. It's not a commandment. You have to follow this, and there's no other choice. So get your shackles on and do as you're told. But no, Krishna doesn't do that for the living entity. He's always making arrangements. There are shackles, and those shackles have been described a little earlier in the earlier verses in the of this chapter. I think it was in text, wherever it was. I was just looking at some of the text. Yes, very interesting. The descendants of Prithu Maharaj, Antardhana, he retired from his kingly duties very early. He wasn't happy in that situation because there was so much duties of the king to administer taxation and punishment, and he didn't like that very much. So he retired early. And then we heard about Barishat, who was later called Prachina Barishat. He performed great sacrifices all over the world. That we should follow that example. And Prabhupada says there that we should follow it with performing the Sankirtan Yagya for this age. Those other yagyas are not practical for the age of Kali. So the big shackle is described later in, I think it's around text 12, that amazing description. Satadruti is a wonderful description of her, and Prabhupada explains it so nicely. Her beauty attracted all the exalted personalities, the sages, the rishis, the demigods. They were all attracted. This was even at her wedding, and she was so beautiful. Everyone became captivated. And Prabhupada concludes, he says, this is the complete, that woman is the complete representation of Maya in the material world. He goes on to explain Vishvamitra Muni, who was a great exalted rishi and sage. He became a victim of the ankle bells. Now, what was explained is in the Satadruti Mataji, as she was being married, a very young, beautiful personality, she was properly dressed. So it wasn't that she was exposing her bodily beauty, but she was so attractive that even she was clothed properly, those personalities became attracted. So Prabhupada says that, and the reason I'm mentioning all these things is because it leads up to where we are, and there's so many gems in this Bhagavatam, and in this chapter, specifically we're discussing, that he says, Srila Prabhupada concludes that only a devotee who is attracted by Krishna can escape the lures of woman or the opposite sex. Women are also attracted to men in a different way, and they're thinking that they can become, all their desires will be satisfied by finding that strong, handsome, wonderful man. And this way they're captivated by the qualities of a man in a different way. So the way out of this is Visayavani Vartante Niraharasya Dehi Narasa Varjam Rasopyasha Param Drisvana Vartate. Now that's a very important verse to understand. That Prabhupada's saying that unless one can gain the higher taste of service, of love, of attraction to Krishna, then we will not be able to detach ourselves from the allurements of the material world and the shackles of the material world. So I was very got connected to that point. I thought, yes, this is actually the case. We always have to develop that higher taste. And that's how Bhaktivinoda Thakur says we should live our lives as devotees and always be introspective. Am I getting the higher taste? Am I not? If I'm not, then what do I have to adjust? Because I have great faith in this process and I must need to adjust something to make sure that I'm getting this higher taste. The embodied soul may be restricted from sense objects, though the taste for sense objects remains, but ceasing such engagements by experiencing a higher taste, he can remain fixed in all circumstances. So this was the message of that part of the chapter. Then we went on to text 13, Prachinabhari's 10 sons, the Prachetas. So we're now discussing this part. They possessed all good qualities, and they were performing austerities for 10,000 years. They were just gearing up for that. It's like, okay, here we go. Let's go for a 10,000 year austerities. Now, this is not possible in the Kali Yuga. Prabhupada points that out. What is possible, again, Prabhupada takes the opportunity, is Harinam Sankirtan, the performance of the Sankirtan Yagya, is a type of austerity. Pardon me. What have I written here? I've just got a little note over here. What have we got? Yes, just couldn't see it there. So Satya Yuga, 10,000 years. And Srila Prabhupada, in one of the verses around here, he says that he said the Prachetas were performing austerities for 10,000 years. In Kali Yuga, can't do that for various reasons. We don't have the duration of life. We can't perform austerities. We're manda samanda matayo mandu bhagya upadrita. We are lazy, we're quarrelsome, we're misguided, we're unlucky, we're always disturbed. This is Kali Yuga. So what is possible? Harinama, chant Hare Krishna. Absorb yourself in this process of Panchanga Bhakti, engage in the activities of devotional service. And he said, it's so unfortunate that in this age of Kali, we find that very difficult. So austerity has to be performed. One of my famous verses of quoting was Tapodivyam putraka yena sattvam sudyedyasmad brahma sokyam tvana. That Lord Rishabhadev says, my dear boys, of all living entities who have attained material bodies, those who have attained the human form of life should not work hard day and night simply for sense gratification, which is available to all the other species of life. Rather, one should engage in penance and austerities to attain the divine position of devotional service. That will bring one spiritual happiness, which is transcendental to the material pleasures and continues eternally. It's such a wonderful verse. So, tapodevyam, that there has to be some tapasya. So Lord Shiva then going on, and was very impressed by the desire. Lord Shiva is the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Krishna, manifesting in a way which is connected to the Tamaguna. And therefore, Lord Shiva, also Shastra explains, is in a special category. He's not Jiva Tattva and he's not Vishnu Tattva. He is his own Tattva. So his position is marginal. Pardon me. Lord Shiva was very inspired because the Prachetas had all good qualities and they were determined to perform this great yagya over a long period of time to gain the association of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. So Lord Shiva decided to act as their spiritual master. And that is very rare. His darshan is very, very rare to get. And then Srila Prabhupada in one of the verses there, I think it's 17 or 16, that Lord Shiva incarnated as Sripad Sankaracharya to eradicate the Buddhist preaching. So Lord Shiva is very kind in that way, and he comes as Sankara to dissolve this idea of nirvisation, sunyavad. So that's another whole discussion. So the Prachetas approached the abode of Lord Shiva, and again, Prabhupada beautifully in the purport describes this in texts 18 to 23. The Prachetas approached the abode of Lord Shiva, which was not void. It was not impersonal, but it was full of beautiful, and there's great descriptions in those verses of the variegatedness and the atmosphere of blissful existence in that variegatedness in Lord Shiva's abode. So Prabhupada points out there that as we go towards the spiritual realm, we don't lose the variegatedness. It's fully there, manifest. So he emerged from a beautiful lake. The descriptions are there. And Lord Shiva is surrounded by different followers who are glorifying him. And so many musical instruments are there. And so many descriptions of variegatedness. Pardon me again. Sorry for that. So in text 27, Lord Shiva recognizes the qualities of the Prachetas as Vaishnavas. He sees these are actually Vaishnavas, and I'm very much a follower. That in the next verse, we're going to hear Vaishnavam Yatha Sambhu. So Lord Shiva is actually the greatest of all the Vaishnavas. He's always in meditation on the Supreme Personality of Godhead. And he's very inclined towards the Lord's, towards Lord Vishnu, Lord Krishna's devotees. So that brings us to today's verse. And I thought we'd go back there because I was reading all of this and it was really quite wonderful. So this tapasya has to be performed, and the whole Vedic culture, as we're reading this Srimad Bhagavatam, we see that it's created to bring pleasure to the living entity, and there's a structure to it. Just reminded Devamrita Maharaj speaks about the social fabric. So there's a social fabric to give support to human society, and that is there in the Vedic culture, so that people can fulfill their material desires in a way which is not contrary to religious principles, and therefore make gradual progress on the path. And Prabhupada goes to say that the Vaikuntha Lokas are targets for everyone, even the demigods. I'll go back a little. So Prabhupada's going through that one can go to the highest planet in the material world, the Brahma Loka. And to do that, one has to just see whoever executes his occupational swadharma for 100 births, say, for example, a Brahmana continues to act as a Brahmana, he becomes eligible for promotion to Brahma Loka. So you can go to Brahma Loka, the planet where Lord Brahma lives, and that requires great austerities to come to that level. And then there's also Shiva Loka, Shada Shiva Loka, is a marginal position. If you're more advancement, if one becomes more qualified, he's promoted to that realm of Lord Shiva. And if one is even more qualified, Prabhupada is saying in the purport, you can attain the Vaikunthas. That's a target for everyone, even the demigods. And they can be attained by the devotee who has no material desire for material benefit. But as indicated in the Bhagavad Gita, Prabhupada says in 8:16, one does not escape material miseries even if he is elevated to Brahma Loka. Abrahma Bhuvana Loka Purna Avartino Arjuna. From the highest planet in the material world down to the lowest, all the places of misery wherein what happens? Repeated birth and death is going on. So that is not very safe, Prabhupada says, even if he's promoted to Shiva Loka, because Shiva Loka is marginal. So this we have to grasp, and we have this opportunity. It's a very rare opportunity to gain this knowledge that no matter where we go, no matter who we associate with in this realm, which is vast, it's a big realm. There's lower planetary system, middle planetary systems, higher planetary systems. Then there's beyond that Shiva Loka. No matter who we associate with there, we will not come to the Param Gatim. Mamo Pecha Purna Janma Dukalayam Shashvatam Natnu Vanti Mahatmanas Samsitim Paramam Gatim. That is 8:16 or 8:15, isn't it? 8:15. So let's go to that verse. I'm going to look at it in Bhagavad Gita. I think I'll just quickly find it. 8:15 or 4:15, I think. Yes, 8:15. After attaining me, the great souls who are yogis in devotion never return to this temporary world which is full of miseries. Sorry, folks, or should we not say sorry, we should say happy to tell you that that's the reality, because they have attained the highest perfection. Prabhupada's purport is one large, medium-sized paragraph. So let's read Srila Prabhupada's statements. Purport. Since this temporary world is full of misery, the miseries of birth, old age, disease, and death, naturally, he who achieves the highest perfection and attains the supreme planet Krishna Loka, Goloka Vrindavan, does not wish to return. The supreme planet is described in Vedic literature as beyond our material vision, and it is considered the highest goal. The Mahatmas, great souls, receive transcendental messages from the realized devotees, and thus gradually develop devotional service and Krishna consciousness, and become so absorbed in transcendental service that they no longer desire elevation to any of the material planets, nor do they even want to be transferred to any spiritual planet. They only want Krishna's association and nothing else. We hear that in the Damodarastakam that we're chanting at this time. I have no desire for impersonal liberation, nor do I desire eternal life in Vaikuntha. I only want to have this vision of Damodar or Krishna in the form of a cowherd boy. They only want Krishna's association and nothing else. Such great souls in Krishna consciousness attain the highest perfection of life. In other words, they are the supreme souls. So we are hoping now to become Mahatmas. You think, as I'm even thinking about it, we think great soul, yes, very great, very big, but actually Mahatma is very great by his humility. So it seems like a contradiction, but the greatness is the humility of the Vaishnava. So we see Lord Shiva is known as the greatest Vaishnava, but he doesn't present himself in a proud way, but he's always in meditation on the Supreme Personality of Godhead, carrying out his duty as the how to say that, his duty to take care of all those souls who are wandering in the material atmosphere. And he's very pleased when he gets the chance to render service to the Lord's devotees. He very much appreciates that. So the highest perfection of life is to come to the because they've achieved the highest perfection of this Paramgati, the supreme abode. Pardon me. So where were we there? All planets. Yes. Abrahama, and the material world there is danger to step. Yes, so I think I finished. I was mentioning earlier we were out walking, yeah, and people are doing that. They're washing their cars, keeping everything clean and tidy. Not everywhere, but in many places like that, because the idea is that I will last forever. I'll make a permanent situation here in this temporary body. It's such a ridiculous proposal, really. But pashyati na pashyati. We see it, but don't see it. So the materialists see, and Maharaj Yudhisthira was famous for saying that the most amazing thing as the emperor of the world, when he came to think of it, when he was asked, what is the most amazing thing, is that although we see, everyone sees that there is the birth, there is the death, the old age and disease, and then the death. So let's take it that way. There's birth, then there's maintenance for some time, there's dwindling old age, disease, and death. So we see that is going on, but we don't see it. And it's amazing. Again, we used to talk like that. You don't see it as much in India now, but you still see more of it, the realities. In the Western civilization, it's all become sanitized. Do you ever see somebody dying? Practically no. Old age is supported in different ways, and then you don't see it. It's not so visible. So it's hidden, but the reality is it's going on. It's like a quote unquote cancer. You don't see it, but it's there and it's going and it's chewing away at everything and destroying everything. So that is the actual position. And this whole wonderful civilization that's presented to us depends very much on our qualification as the Lord's devotees. If we can actually develop the qualities required, the peacefulness, the self-control, the compassion, the humility, the desire to serve the Lord. If we can actually develop those, then we will be playing our own little part in Krishna's plan, which is to create a society, a civilization that is progressive for all the members, not only of human life, but of all the species of life, all the species. So this is Krishna's plan. He covers everything. There's nothing left out. It's not just for the Hindus. It's not just for the Indians. It's not just for the black man or the white man or the yellow man. And it's not just for this kind of animal and that. It's for every aspect of his gorgeous creation. So this is Krishna's plan, and we are encouraged to follow his plan. Savaipum samparo dharmo yato bhaktira dhoksaje ahoitakiya pratihata yena suprasiditi. The supreme occupation for all humanity is that activity by which one can render devotional service unto the personality of God, either as a Brahmana, Kshatriya, Vaishya, Sudra. Everyone can render devotional service. The body requires all the parts of the body. We need the legs. If you don't have the legs, you're in trouble. You need the belly, you need the arms to protect, and you need the head to direct. All of the parts of the body must be there. So some siddhi, we discussed the Hari Toshanam, and then the other verses in that second chapter of the Srimad Bhagavatam, they say all the activities, what is that? Dharma Smunistitapam Vishvakshena Katai Suya Utpadayed Yatiratim Shrama Evahi Kevalam. The occupational activities a person performs according to his own position are only so much useless labor. Shrama Evahi Kevalam, if they do not provoke attraction for hearing the messages of Vasudeva. So it was available for everyone. The Brahmins, 24 hours a day, fully involved, and the Vaishnava Brahmin is like that. And all the way down, I won't labor the point, but all the way down, that even the Shudra, why? They would perform yagyas and the Shudras would be fed very nicely. They'd be cared for. They were appreciated. They were respected. Everyone was respected and encouraged to perform their specific duties in a mood to please the Lord. And everyone would be making advancement. So I think I'm going to just close there and see if we can get one or two reflections. We've covered a lot of aspects. And where are we? I'm looking for a time. It is 8:12. That's quite, yeah, that's not too bad. It's quite good. So if anyone has any reflections on any of the verses that I've mentioned or any point that I've raised, that maybe something stuck in your mind, you thought, oh yeah, something, then just try, if you can, just to reflect it back for a few seconds or whatever time it takes. Just, and that way we'll maybe get another little bit of a few more gems that are just there to be brought out. So if anyone has, just unmute and
Hare Krishna Prabhu, Dandavat Pranam.
Hare Krishna, Hari.
Such a beautiful class in the morning of during the month of Kartika. It's wonderfully explained the text so nicely, explaining that text is referring from Bhagavatam 1.2 chapter on text 13, how important it is. Katopumbit sister, Varnasam Divagasha, Sonastistasya Dharmasya, Samsiddhi Haritosal. So everything is around this. Unless Hari is satisfied, no matter what you do, it won't be going to work. It is very, very important. Whatever the burden you have, just maintain your sadharma and perform the duties you have, and everything will be settled as mentioned by Lord. The side is sadharma sanukha pumshan digvekshana katashuna nautpadeti rati nautpadeti yadi ratim samayevavi kevalam. If I don't do it properly or do it haphazardly, it's not going to bring any fruit. So the most important thing, whatever state you are in, just do the best you can, and that everything will fall in place.
Yes, and thank you for that, Prabhu. It confirms the points that we've been discussing, and the responsibility very much lies with us, because we can say that they should do this and these people should do that and these rascals should do. We can look at all the faults of the persons who are not following this system, but if the responsibility lies with us to continue trying to purify our own existence to a point where it will become attractive to others. The Goswamis of Vrindavan were known to be popular both with the gentle and with the ruffians. They were so Krishna conscious that people's hearts melted in their association because they were caring, they were loving, they were empathic about the suffering of others. They would try and help in every way that they possibly could. And people, whether they were high class or ruffians, could see it and felt it and experienced it. And in that way, they took shelter. And Prabhupada points out that even the Goswamis were approached by the Grihastas if they had some problem in their family in some various ways. They would approach, please, Swamiji, can you please give us some guidance? What should we do to settle up this, whatever it may be? And they felt that they could approach. And in that way, the Goswamis were not up on a big high pedestal, but they were definitely on the highest pedestal. But at the same time, they were so amenable to people's suffering condition and able to. So again, so the responsibility for ourselves, for our own purification, and also for the spreading of the mission. Thank you, Prabhu.
Thank you. Hare Krishna.
So if there's anybody else, please feel free to unmute. I'm not at all. I'm working on the phone today because somehow or other it seems to work better a little bit. So I have no idea who else is there at the moment.
Hare Krishna Prabhu, Dandavat Pranam.
Hey, Hare Krishna Prabhu.
Hare Krishna, Dandavat Pranam. Thank you so much for a wonderful class as always, with your brilliant realizations and connecting it to the present day world. Really appreciate that, and a lot of humor as well. Yeah, I really like that.
I like that you're bringing in the humor.
Yeah.
Thank you, Krishna.
So I just
What-
you were mentioning regarding this Varnashrama, Prabhu. You're of course Varnashrama. It's a whole different topic altogether,
Yes.
which it'll consume several hours. So
Yes.
is Varnashrama, is it just to understand, is it the standard process? I know Krishna says he has established this Varnashrama system. So is this the standard process for progressing in this material world, or is that more like a compromise? Because I'm not good enough for the topmost thing, so yeah, take the second best. Is this the second best or third best? That kind of thing. Yeah. Is it like a consolation prize or a compromise? Yeah.
Great question. Yeah, I was thinking that everything that just some thoughts that come that maybe fit to the question. Everything Krishna creates is Om Purnamada Purna, is perfect and complete. So he doesn't create anything as a compromise. So a compromise usually is when we can't get something that's quite right. So we have to make a compromise. So Krishna only creates things that are perfect. So the system that he's created is a perfect system for the functioning of human society, because we have come into this world to fulfill material desires. We have not come here because we're fully Krishna conscious. Otherwise, we wouldn't be here. We'd be back in the spiritual world. So there has to be a system to fulfill those desires in a way which is not contrary to the religious principles. Why? Because that will gradually again elevate the living entity. So the Varnashram is always there and it's always required. Naturally, we hear that, especially in Chaitanya Lila, we hear the discussions between Ramananda Rai and Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, and Ramananda Rai suggests, yes, Varnashram, and Lord Chaitanya says, thank you, but if you know more, please go further. Please explain more and more. And this way he goes to higher and higher levels of conscious devotional life. So it's perfect, and but naturally that is not the end. The end is to come to the platform of pure love of Godhead, and that is a gradual process for most of us. In fact, for all of us, more or less. It's a gradual process for everyone, more or less. Some more gradual and some less gradual, but gradual it is. We have to come from where we've come as a child born in the womb of a mother, and we have to come out and develop the consciousness. In this verse this morning and this chapter is explaining like that we gradually can advance the consciousness more and more, and come to a higher level of consciousness. So I don't think I've answered it very well, but it's some discussion on the subject matter. Pardon me.
Thank you, Prabhu. Thank you.
Okay, Krishna. So maybe, I don't know if there's anybody else there. I would think maybe not, but maybe if there is, a last few seconds, and then we'll finish at that point.
Hare Krishna, Prabhu. Dhanush Pranam.
Oh, Hare Krishna.
Nandaraj here, Prabhu. Thank you for the wonderful class.
Hare.
Prabhu, just comment on this Varnashrama system. You
Yes.
mentioned that because everything is Krishna, whatever Krishna creates is perfect. But
Yes.
if somebody doesn't follow the perfect system, it's not follow Krishna. So, like in the current system in India, the Varna system has been degenerated, which is exploited more based on birth and then on karma. So you cannot blame Krishna if it doesn't work. There's a lot of criticism in India about the caste system. They want to get rid of it. So I was just thinking, the system is perfect, but people are not following. So it's not the fault of Krishna. Good
point, Nandaraj. excuse me. Yeah, and the British were very quick, and the Westerners are very quick to go to that point. Or your caste system is putting people down. The downtrodden people are being exploited, and therefore your religion is bad. So the baby gets thrown out with the bathwater. That expression. Yeah. So some problem, and therefore we throw the water in the bath has become dirty, so you have to get rid of the bath water. But unfortunately, there's a little baby in there gets thrown out with the bath water. No. So in a similar way, the caste system is a perverted, not even, it's just a perversion of the original system, and we shouldn't throw it out. But it's not an easy task to reinstate things when they've been, what would you say, the reputation has become tarnished. So Varnashram it's like a tarnished reputation, and it's become known as like a caste system. And that's not in vogue these days. More and more and more, we're getting all this liberalization of everything. Nobody wants to be seen as higher and lower and different. It's all one. You can do any damn thing you want, be any damn thing you can create in your crazy brain, and it all has to be digested and accepted by everyone as being okay. And therefore, we're going to have a happy society because because the madness is everywhere, and it doesn't work at all. So yeah, good point, Nandaraj. It's not Krishna's fault.
Hare Krishna Prabhuji.
Yes.
Dandavat Pranam. Abhay Charan here.
Oh, Haribol Prabhu, Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna Prabhu. I think most of the people have got a misidea or a wrong idea that caste system has nothing to do with Varnashram system. It is a social order. It is a social order that was created by Krishna for the perfection of the society, and the caste system is created by British. Most of the people do not know that it was created by British. They tried to regulate the different races according to the consciousness what they thought it fit, and one has to previously we had got jatis and varnas. People who have occupations, that is called their jati, and varnas is based on the social based on the qualities they have. So these are two different things. Unfortunately, most of the people have no idea, and they confuse, and they say that that has Varnashram Dharma has been deteriorated. Varnashram Dharma is never deteriorated. Varnashram is created by the Lord. How it can be deteriorated? If we do not follow it, it is our problem, and it is not Krishna's fault.
What's the word you're using, Prabhu? I'm sorry, I missed one word you said. Determined.
Borno and Jati, that was the two things. Borno means the quality a person possesses.
Yes.
And Jati is what the occupation he has. And previously, according to one's qualities, the people were taking professions. And as it is told in Bhagavad Gita, I think it is 1845, it is clearly stated that Sheshe karmani abhirata samsiddhing labhate nara sakarma nirada siddhing tatha vindati tatsrino. And by following the qualities of work, every man can become perfect. That is Lord Krishna is telling. And also next verse he says that by worshipping the Lord, who is the source of all beings, who is all pervading, a man can attain perfection through performing his own work. So God has given the right thing. And if in a society something is there, that means we are not following that. That is not a problem of the Varnashram Dharma.
No.
And if you say, people say that deterioration in material life, everything is deteriorated. In material life, everything is deteriorated.
Or deteriorated. I couldn't get that word. That's the word I was asking you. I think it was deteriorated. It's a very awkward English word. Yeah. Okay. Deteriorated. Yeah, everything is, that's the nature of the whole creation. Also, it deteriorates. And therefore, the parampara has to reestablish this knowledge is in this way, that the clarity becomes there, it becomes manifest, that actually Varnashram is absolutely fine. And
in fact, Prabhuji, Prabhupada has told that his goal is to create Varnashram Dharma, create the proper Brahmanas who has got the proper knowledge and the proper duty for that. This is this for which ISKCON was created.
Do you know what's going to have to happen, Prabhu? I'm just thinking about, as you're saying that, we need the proper brahmanas, but because we're Kali Yugites, we're born in the Kali Yuga, we've only got 100 years, and maybe it's only 80 years or whatever you live. So by the time you finally get the chance to develop any kind of good qualities, you're just about dead. And then you die. So what's going to happen, this is a prediction, just a bit of a laugh. We're keeping a bit of humor in here, but it's connected to reality, I think, is we're going to see more elevated souls taking birth in this movement and already have begun from past lives. We'll all have to come back. If we've made any advancement at all, chances are we might be able to take birth in a family of devotees and continue this process, but we're starting from Prabhupada always spoke like that. If you've completed 50%, you'll begin at 51% when you next life, and in this way. So it's kind of a bit of a joke, but it's a bit of a reality also, I think. So we have to do as much as we can in this life, because chances are we'll be coming back into some situation to continue the process. So funny. Please forgive me if I've said anything that's not supported by Shastra, but I can't give you a quote on that. But yeah, you can connect it pretty much. Ultimately, Krishna has the final word in everything. So Prabhupada said that we have to work in such a way as we can become qualified to go back home, back to Godhead. Whether we take birth again or don't take birth again, where we take birth and what situation, that is all up to Krishna. And Krishna is our all-loving, caring friend and father and guide, and he will place us exactly where we should be according to his plan. And we gradually, hopefully, can come to the point where we can say, Krishna, I'm okay with that. Your plan is a lot better than the plan I've had following my mind for the last so many zillion years or births. So Krishna will take care. Okay, so I'm going to finish there, and I thank you so much for making some reflections, and for everyone else that's online. And we'll look forward to seeing you at the temple soon. Prabhupada's disappearance day is tomorrow night, I think it is. So Krishna bless. Grantaraja Srimad Bhagavatam ki jai.
Jai.
Prabhupada ki jai.
Jai. Pancha kalpatarubhyascha kripa sindhubhya eva cha patitanam pavanebhyo vaishnavebhyo namo namaha. Ananta koti Vaishnava Vrinda ki jai. His grace, Jai Sila ki jai.
Yeah.